Good day, everyone. Welcome to Van Chicagoland Stories, the podcast. I'm your host, Pete Costanis. This is episode 45, season 2. We have an interesting show coming up. And right now we go into a commercial break. This program is brought to you by Tropical Blend Tanning Oil from Coppertone. And here is a commercial from 1978.
Deep and wild is the savage tan. Get it fair with Tropical Blend. Dark and sleek is the savage tan. Get it fast with Tropical Blend.
Tropical Blend by Coppertone. Smells like fresh coconuts. Lets you tan fast. Moisturizes your skin to help keep you soft and beautiful. Tropical Blend, the savage tan.
Okay, everyone, I am back. I hope you enjoyed that commercial. That was Tropical Blend from Coppertone from 1978. I used to watch that commercial on television when I was a sophomore at high school, and they showed it on Channel 7 WLS on ABC during the primetime lineup for the shows like, for example, Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, Three's Company, Soap, Taxi. So I remember that fondly, and the commercial shows a beautiful girl in a bikini walking through the jungle with a tiger on a leash, and they headed for the beach, and then she applied suntan oil. It was a catchy music, but you can find it on YouTube. So if you do a search on YouTube of Tropical Blend from Coppertone, you'll find it. Anyway, I'll talk about three things. Today's date is August 6th, 2021. I will talk about Diana's Opa restaurant, Greek restaurant, that is, the Old Barn restaurant in Burbank, Illinois. And then I will discuss Lucille Ball's birthday, which is today, August 6th. She would have been 110 years old. So happy birthday, Lucy. All right, the first thing I would discuss is Diana's Greek restaurant that was located in Greektown in Chicago. It was owned by two brothers. His name was Petros. They were named Petros and Peter. I get those two mixed up because in Greek, you have in Greek Peter and Pete is Panayoti, and Petros is Peter. I don't know how that worked out. And it was, I guess it's up to their mother. That's the way she named the kids. So anyway, Diana's opened probably in the early 50s. And Petros arrived from Greece to America in 1955. And he partnered with his uncle. And he owned Diana's Grocery. And Petros had an idea, why don't we turn it into a restaurant? And then they did, and they added tables, but it got too popular, and the grocery was too small. So they moved it to 130 South Halsted. I don't know where the grocery was located. And then they expanded more, and then they opened at 212 South Halsted. And I've only been to that restaurant once, and that was in the mid-70s. I was invited to me and my family, that is, invited to a baptism at St. Basil's Greek Orthodox Church in Chicago. It's still there at Polk Street and Ashland, right on the corner. It's still a beautiful church. They had a fire about a few years ago, but they fixed it up, and everything's fine now. Anyway, then the reception of the baptism was held at Diana's, and my family and I went there. The food was good. We didn't see Petros there when he didn't greet us. We just walked in, and then we saw him later, and he was walking around, kissing the women, dancing, singing. He always greet the women with a kiss, just like Richard Dawson on Family Feud. And he had long black hair. My mom called him the Greek Tiny Tim. You could figure. He used to sing. He was a very entertainer. He was on Rowan Martin's Laugh-In, and he sang Tiptoe Through the Tulips. A lot of people remembered him that. Anyway, so they opened another restaurant. I don't know if it was after they closed this one or it was during. It was located at 1633 North Halsted, right near the Steppenwolf Theater in Chicago. And it wasn't very popular, for what I heard. And Diana's was open. The original Diana's was open until like 93, 94. And because Petros died in 1990, so I don't know who took over the restaurant. They filmed two movies there. One was in the 60s. It was called Dream of Kings, that starred Anthony Quinn. And there's pictures of Peter and Anthony Quinn drinking. I found that on a postcard. And the second one was Only the Lonely, that starred John Candy and Maureen O'Hara. And it came out in 93, and they filmed part of it at Diana's. I think it was Diana's. I never seen the movie. I gotta go see. I gotta go watch it, and I'll see for myself. I heard it was funny, very charming. Anyway, so it's a shame that Diana's is gone, and the Parthenon is gone. Oh, there was a dispute about the Saganaki. That's the flaming cheese. Petros claimed Diana's that he invented it, and then you have the owner of the Parthenon, and he claimed he invented it, but I think it was the Parthenon. That's what I believe. Okay, and so Greektown's still there. There's only a couple restaurants. There's the Athena. There's Greek Islands. Excuse me. Parthenon closed about a few years ago. Pegasus is gone. That's a shame. Santorini just closed, I just heard, because of the pandemic. So one day I'll do a podcast episode, and I'll talk about the Greek businesses that are gone, mostly from Greektown. I'll do that. I'll do solely on that. Anyway, the next thing I'll talk about is the Old Barn restaurant that was located at Burbank, Illinois. And I happened to find a menu that explains the history of that. And this menu is from 1983. And it opened in 1921. It was first located at 79th Street on State Road. And then it opened in 1921. The owner's name was Andy Cluck with a K. And it was during the Prohibition. They were serving moonshine, illegal liquor. There was a speakeasy. If you watch on the old episodes on the Untouchables, you get an idea of that. And it was rumored that Al Capone visited there. I'm sure he did. And then it moved to in 1930. They moved to its present location on 8100 South Parkside. That's a block west of Central Avenue. And they opened in 1933. And then there was some additions added. That was built. I'm sorry. And there was a banquet room that opened in 1964, and the cocktail lounge opened in 1969. One famous celebrity that was a frequent customer was W.C. Fields, the comedian. And whenever he was in town, he visited there. And a lot of famous people, authors, actors, sports figures, they frequently visited there. It was a wonderful place. And I remember some people told me there was an entertainer. It was a magician. His name was Ernie. I never saw him, but he was a good magician, and he entertained at the restaurant for years. And so I only went there once a long time ago, and I don't remember what I ate, but I do remember the dinner rolls they had, and they were awesome. Soft, hot, delicious. Oh, you put melted butter. Ooh, it oozed all over the place. Excuse me. It was wonderful. So I found another menu that's listed, and they got entrees. For example, they had southern fried chicken, baked ham, filet mignon, types of fish, filet of sole. They had red snapper, shrimp. They had steaks. Wonderful things. there's soup, salad. It was a wonderful place to dine, and the food was awesome. Because I posted a ad from 1996, and they celebrate their 75th anniversary. And when I did that a couple of days ago, a lot of people remembered it. They loved that place. It closed about in the 2000s. I'm not sure exactly. The property's still sitting idle. There was a rumor that they were going to build a church there. That never happened. I think there was some legal entanglements, but the property's still vacant. So hopefully it'll be built. Something will be built there. But I wish it stayed open. But I think the owners died and no one was interested. And that's a shame. It's a shame of that. Okay. Next thing I'll talk about is Lucille Ball. Now, you're asking yourself why I'm talking about her, because she's not from Chicago, but her presence made to everyone in Chicago for many, many years on her TV shows and her movies. A lot of people didn't remember that. So I'll talk about her biography a little bit, and I hope you can enjoy it. So she was born August 6, 1911 in Jamestown, New York. Actually, it was a town called Celeron. It's a little town outside of Jamestown, New York. And she started her career as a teenager. She left her town and went to New York. She became a model, and then she was sent back. And then her mother convinced her, no, just go back to New York because this is what you want to do. And later she boarded a train to head to Hollywood. And she started her first movie. It was 1933 called Roman Scandals. I don't think she had any lines in it, but she was one of the showgirls. So that was her first movie. She was well known, but not famous as she is now. She played bit parts. There were bit B movies. And then in 1940, she started a movie called Too Many Girls, and that was based on a Broadway musical or a play in New York. And her future husband, Dizzy Arnaz, was in the musical. And when they made the movie in Hollywood and he came to Hollywood, that's where they met. That's where he met Lucille Ball. And then they got married. And then he was a band leader. He was on the road, and she did movies. They didn't see each other. They almost divorced around in the late 40s, but they remarried. So thank God for that. Then I read somewhere her first appearance on television was not I Love Lucy. It was on a game show in the late 40s, like 1947, 48. That was her first appearance. Then she did the radio show. She was on radio a lot, and she started on a radio show called My Favorite Husband. And her husband was not Dizzy Arnaz. It was Richard Denning. He was an actor, and that ran about 3 years. And then it ran for 3 years. Then she wanted to do a television show. And no, actually, she was approached to do a television show, and they she wanted her husband, Dizzy Arnaz, to star. And they said, no, we don't want him. He's a Cuban. And I go, we want you, an American actor. Well, that was kind of insulting, That's terrible to say something like that. Anyway, they went on the road, and they performed, like a vaudeville act. And then they did get the show. They filmed the pilot in 1951, and it was I Love Lucy. And it only starred Lucy and Ricky. The Mertzes, Ethel and Fred, were not in the pilot. So I've seen the pilot. It was shown on TV in 1990. For the first time. You could still watch it. It's still on DVD. So if you have the DVD, you can watch it. The show started in 1951. I Love Lucy, October 15th. I will talk about that show on the 60th anniversary in October. I will do a podcast episode of that. And then the show became popular. It ran from 1951 to 1957, and then they did the Lucy Desi Comedy Hour from 57 to 60. But it was only 13 episodes. And then by that time, their marriage was in turmoil. They didn't speak to each other, and they got divorced in 1960. And then Lucille went to Broadway, starred in Wildcat for 1 year. It wasn't very popular. She got very sick. She got injured, I heard. The reviews were terrible. And then CBS convinced her to go do another TV show. And she asked Vivian Vance, who played Ethel Mertz, to be her partner. And it was called The Lucy Show, and that's premiered October 2nd, October 1st, 1962. I think October 1st. It ran for 6 years. And then she stopped in 1968, and then she started Here's Lucy. And that ran from 1968 to 1974, I think. Yeah, 1974. It started her children, Desi Jr. and Lucy. I have all the shows on DVD, all of them. I Love Lucy, The Lucy Show, and Here's Lucy. I remember my first time I watched Lucille Ball on TV was about when I was 5, and I saw reruns on I Love Lucy on Channel 9. And then when I went to school, I didn't see much of her. And then The Lucy Show premiered on syndication Channel 32 about 1973, 74. I think it's 1973, and it was on 5 o'clock, and I used to watch that. And then I Love Lucy didn't come in syndication, I think about 1977 on Channel 44, WSNS. And they put it at 6 o'clock, and I started watching it. Oh, I was hooked on it. I think it was 76 it started, yeah. And then the show it never went back to Channel 9. It was on Channel 9 on WGN in the 60s. And then Channel 32 showed it, and then now Meet TV shows the show. I think it does. We'll see. And Lucille Ball died in April 26, 1989, and I remember the day where I was. I remember that day. I remember where I was when I heard the news. I was working in Skokie at a company, and someone walked by and said, "Oh, she passed away," and I felt so sad. Oh, I was affected. That was the only celebrity at the time I felt so deeply, by her death, because I loved her, and I still watch her to this day, and it's like a member of the family. And I read somewhere somebody was driving on the highway in Los Angeles, and he pulled over, and when he heard the news that Lucy died, he pulled over on the shoulder, and he cried and couldn't stop crying. That's so sad. Her death infected a lot of people, and her work will live on forever. On television, DVDs. Her movies are on DVD. One of my favorite movies I liked was Yours, Mine, and Ours. It looks silly, but it's funny, but I heard Lucy didn't like doing a movie, with all the kids. And then in 1986, she started her next series, Life with Lucy, and it was not well received, and people were scared of her because she did pratfalls, and she was still, it's still funny, but she was too old at the time, and a lot of people were. And it only lasted about 13 episodes, but it only showed about 8 or 9. It didn't last, and she was fired. This is the first time she was fired from a show. She was always working, but it took her, that cancellation of the show took her pretty hard. So that's so sad about that. I have it on DVD. I watched it. It was okay. She had Gail Gordon, Mr. Mooney from the Lucy. He took over the Ricky character, Lucy, or Mrs. Carmichael. So she is my favorite entertainer of all time, and I Love Lucy is my favorite show ever. I like The Honeymooners. I love Batman from 1966. Also, Rowan Martin's Laughing. But Lucy, I Love Lucy is the best. You know, I never get tired of watching it. I still love it. They have Blu-rays out, but only for the first two seasons. I don't know why they didn't make any more, but I have a feeling the rest are coming out in honor of her birthday, or the upcoming anniversary of the debut of I Love Lucy, which is the 60th. We'll see. Keep your fingers crossed. Okay. So that'll be all for today. I'm sorry for rambling on for so long, but I'm glad you joined me. I discussed about Diana's Greek restaurant that was in Chicago in the Greektown neighborhood, the Old Barn restaurant that was in Burbank, Illinois, and I also talk about Lucille Ball's career, which is her birthday, which she would have been 110 years old. And so I'm glad you can join me. Thank you. And this is episode 45, season 2 of Vanishing Chicagoland Stories. I'm your host, Pete Costanis. And it's bye-bye now. I will have the next episode maybe tomorrow. We'll see. So take care, everyone. And here is Ray Rayner saying bye-bye for now. So long, everyone.
We have to go. Bye, bye, bye.